Hello, Dr. Data Science here to teach you data science methods and tools today, tomorrow, and beyond. In this video, we talk about one of the most important topics that everyone should know before utilizing data science methods. These days, we hear a lot about the impressive performance of machine learning algorithms, for example, neural networks, in different domains, such as computer vision for self-driving cars. However, much less attention has been paid to understanding what types and amounts of data are required to attain high accuracy levels. Therefore, in this video, we talk about the significance of data collection and curation when you plan to utilize data science methods in new interesting applications. Let's say you're a restaurant owner and you want to find connections or relationships between original bill and tip amounts. So the first step is to collect a data set like this one that you see here, where each column is one variable or one feature, and each row corresponds to a different example or instance in your data set. This dataset is actually from Seaborn, which is one of the useful packages in Python for data science. I'll give you a link to that video that I discuss about this package at the end of this video. So here, the first thing that we may want to do is to simply use regression models to find correlations between the tip amount and the total bill that each customer received. Although the regression algorithm can capture some information, we notice that here for larger bill amounts, the model fails to explain important correlations. Therefore, now we have to ask ourselves that whether we should use a more complex machine learning algorithm, or is it something about the data that we are using currently. Next, we see that if we train two independent regression models based on a third variable, which is the smoker column in this dataset, we will better understand the relationship between the two desired variables, that is, the connection between tip and total bill amounts. This also allows us to use more complex machine learning algorithms for each category, which is here smoker and non-smoker. Therefore, in general, we should collect various data types and try to figure out which ones are useful for our application. Otherwise, just relying on using more sophisticated learning algorithms typically is not sufficient and even might be harmful. Next, let's take a look at predicting property prices problem, which is a very famous problem for using machine learning algorithms. In this example, we have only one input variable or feature, which is the square footage of a house, and then the output variable is the sales price. And let's say this is a data set that we collected by looking at sales prices in different cities. The first step is to use a simple linear regression to see if we can extract some useful information. Therefore, we have used scikit-learn in Python to draw this regression line. And here we can see that this regression line cannot really explain any kind of correlation or information in the data set that we have. And it is relatively easy to explain why linear regression doesn't work here, because you can find the correlation coefficient, which is a statistical tool to measure the correlation between different variables. And if you measure that correlation coefficient, you see that the input and output variables are uncorrelated in this example, which explains why linear regression cannot be successful. As a data scientist, now you might be interested in using more sophisticated machine learning algorithms, such as neural networks, to solve this problem. And here we used a 2 hidden layer neural network, and as you see, the results are even worse than what we had before. And the reason is simple, because this data set is not really useful for capturing any kind of information. So now the question is what we can do to help solve this problem. So obviously in this example, we have collected information from different cities, and we should take that feature or variable into account when we want to train a machine learning model. And obviously there are more features that can be useful in this example. One of them is some sort of safety index for each property. And there also might be other pieces of information, such as the number of bedrooms, closeness to public schools and transportation. And we really need to collect a lot of different types of information and try to understand which ones are useful to extract correlations between property prices and those selected features. Now let's examine another example for classification using medical image datasets. And this dataset is from Kaggle, so you can download this dataset and start working with this. So here we have a set of X-ray images, and a physician or an expert has labeled these X-ray images as normal or 2 types of pneumonia. At this time, you can use convolutional neural networks or other feature extraction techniques to find a 2-dimensional map of these X-ray images, which means that we are going to represent each image using 2 features, which gives us a coordinate in this 2-dimensional map. One problem in these situations is that it is relatively expensive and time-consuming to label all these X-ray images. So the question is that if we label only a small portion of them, depending on the budget that we have, can we learn some useful structures in data? So on the bottom right figure that we have, you see those squares, and those things are the labeled data points. So meaning that we have labeled from one of the pneumonia cases and also the normal patients. Given this information, you can choose your favorite classifier, such as support vector machines or logistic regression, to separate the 2 classes. And as we see, it looks like that the classifier has successfully separated the 2 classes that we have here. But a big problem is that we have another class that we don't have any labeled samples from it, and the classifier totally ignores that class and is confident that those predictions are accurate. So this is very problematic in general, and this is because we don't have enough observations or labeled samples from that class. And similar to the previous example, using more sophisticated machine learning algorithms would not alleviate this problem. The main takeaway from this video is that data collection and curation techniques should be important components of your next data science project. Here I explain a general approach known as active learning for connecting data collection and predictive modeling together. As you see here, we start with a set of labeled data points or training data, and then we use this training data to develop a machine learning model, for example, a regression model or a classification model. And then after that, instead of just simply reporting accuracy of our model, we decide whether we need new features or we have to exclude some features from our dataset. We can also decide if we need new labeled examples or instances in our dataset. And if so, then we have a human or expert in the loop that we can ask that human or expert to give us labels for new samples in our training dataset. And in this way, we update the label dataset in a closed form, and now we can repeat this process and train a new machine learning model using the updated dataset that we have. And we can continue this process as much as we want, given the budget and other constraints that we have, up to the point that we get to the desired accuracy level. This is a broad view of active learning, and in future videos I'll talk more about details of how to implement active learning algorithms, particularly how we can select new examples or features in this closed loop that we have. I hope that you found this video useful, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.